Hi, this is Edward Troxel, and this is part 4 of this series where we are continuing looking at the easing function, and this time we are going to limit it to going between two keyframes in the effect. So am going to add a couple of keyframes, and then it is going to go only between those two keyframes. For this example, I am hard-coding it to check for the second and third keyframes. So let's take a look at the Vegas project. Here we have the event on the timeline, and if I open up the FX, you can see I have the base keyframe in which it's set to the center, and then I created a first keyframe here, and that's moved over to where it's over the name on the left side. And then I created a second keyframe here, which is over the JETDV in the lower right hand corner. And so now we want it to process between this keyframe and this keyframe only. So let's take a look at this code. Once again, all this is the same as the previous versions. My Vegas equals Vegas, going through each of the tracks. If it's a video track, go through all of the events. If the event is selected, get the video event, get the list of effects, going through the list of effects, and then checking to see if it's the vignette plugin. If it is the vignette plugin, I get the OFX effect, and then I get the OFX double parameter spot lock is what I called, which is coming from the center. So far so good. That's all the same as the previous tutorial. Now let's get into the differences. The next thing I'm doing is looking at the number of keyframes, and I'm looking how many keyframes are there, and if there is more than 2, i.e. at least 3, then I know that I can find the second and third keyframes. So if I had run this before putting those second 2 keyframes on there, it just would have done nothing. This is just a little safety feature I stuck on there to make sure that the keyframes that I'm wanting are there. So then, I'm getting a multiplier x and a multiplier y and setting both of those to 1. Now my reasoning for this is I don't know if my ending value is going to be greater than or less than my beginning value. So if I'm going in a positive direction, I want a multiplier of 1. If I'm going in a negative direction, I will want a different one, which we will check down below. Anyway, I need my first keyframe, which I just called K1, and I'm getting that from spotlock.keyframes, and it's the first keyframe. Remember, the one at the very beginning is number 0, so this is the first one after the very beginning one. And then I need my second keyframe, which is a double 2D keyframe, K2, which is spotlock keyframes, and I'm getting it from the second keyframe. Then I need to know when does that keyframe start. So my starting time code is K1.time. My ending time code is K2.time. Then I need to get the actual frames. So my start frame is going to be my start time code frame count. My ending frame is going to be my ending time code frame count. Next, I'm going to get the 2 values from the keyframes. So my parameter 1 value is K1.value. My parameter 2 value is K2.value. So my starting X position will be P1.X. My starting Y position is P1.Y. My ending X position is P2.X. My ending Y position is P2.Y. Next, I need to know how much my X is changing. So I created another double called X change, and I'm going to get the absolute value of end X minus start X. Now the reason I did the absolute value is if my positions were backwards, I could end up with a negative number. So I want to make sure that I always get the difference between end X and start X, but I want it to always be a positive value. So that's the reason I'm doing the absolute value. Then my Y change will be the math.absolute value end Y minus start Y. Now if my end x is less than my start x, then I'm going to set my multiplier to a -1. If my end y is less than start y, then I'm going to set my multiplier y to -1. So that way if they're going backwards, I will know that I need to go backwards as well. Then my frame length is going to be my end frame minus my start frame, but this time we're getting the frame counts from the position of the keyframes. Then we're going to go my frame equals 0 to my frame is less than or equal to frame length and increase 1 each time just like we did before. And this time we're going to get our x value is frame divided by frame length. That's the same as before. Then our y value is our easeOutBounce called with the x value. Then we need to get the x and y values that we're going to use for the positions. So the position is going to be our x value, which we calculated up here, times the x change, which is the difference between the starting and ending x value, times the multiplier, is it positive or negative, and then we're going to add the initial start location. Same thing with the set y. We're going to take our y value, multiply that by y change, multiply that by our multiplier, and then add our beginning y location. Then our time code for this is going to be timecode.fromFrames, and we're going to start at the start frame, and we're going to add in the current frame that we're working on. So then we create our double 2D variable, just like we did before. We're going to create our oc.x equals setx, our oc.y equals sety, and then we're going to set that value for spot lock, set value at time. This is our time code, and this is our value. So now let's see how that works. So we have our keyframe here and our keyframe here, and let's run the script. Now you can see we have keyframes all the way from here all the way through here, and if we play back the timeline, you will see that from the first keyframe it starts in the center, moves up to the visit, and then does our bounce over to the JETDV on the lower right hand side. So now let's do another quick little test. Let's undo this and come back into our FX. Let's come to this one and let's change this. We'll just put this, say, right here, and then let's come to our second location. We'll move it, say, on top of .com, and then let's run the script again. And now when we play it back, we will see it goes from the center over to there, and then does our bounce up to .com. So as you can see, now we can set the beginning and ending positions as well as the beginning and ending times, and specify that it would only go in between two specific keyframes. And so that will let us very well control where it begins and ends. In the next tutorial, we'll expand on this a little bit farther and see where we can go with this. Please sign up at www.jettv.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.